Hello, everyone. Tonight we are going to talk about something a little peculiar. Imagine your cat. Yes, your very ordinary, nap on the router, stares at nothing cat, suddenly changing. Not dramatically, no horror movie stuff, just a slow shift. One day, it stops sleeping on your bed. And for some reason, that hurts more than you'd like to admit. You might be shocked to hear this story. But trust me, it's not about the cat. Not really. Before I started this emotional story, I thought a lot about whether to tell it or not. I struggled a lot and decided to tell you about my incident. Please support me to be more confident in the following stories by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Now, close the door, turn off the lights, and draw the curtains. A little candle would be nice. Let's go on a journey together tonight. The first time you noticed it, you brushed it off. The cat, her name was Fig, didn't curl up by your feet like she usually did. You figured she was off sulking after a traumatic vet visit or some invisible neighbor cat drama. Maybe she just found a new warm spot near the radiator. But then it happened again. And again, and again. You joked about it to your partner, saying, "Fig's mad at me, probably thinks I'm emotionally unavailable." You both laughed, the way you do when something's funny, because it's a little too real. The truth was, things between you two had been unspoken. Not bad, but not really good either. Like your relationship had moved into a long hallway with bad lighting and no chairs. And Fig? Well, she noticed first. She was the first one to walk out of the room. Cats are weird like that. Superstitious societies used to think they were spirit guardians. Ancient sailors believed they predicted storms. In your tiny apartment, Fig became a domestic barometer, and she was reading a drop in pressure. At first, you tried to win her back, bought new treats, that fancy freeze-dried chicken stuff. You even cleaned her litter box without being asked. She accepted it all, politely, from the hallway. Your partner didn't say much about it, but you could feel it too, this drift, like you were both holding on to the same blanket but had rolled too far to opposite sides. Nights were quiet. Days were quieter. The cat had just made it official. One night, after dinner, you sat in bed scrolling endlessly. Your partner lay next to you, also scrolling, the glow from your screens casting twin shadows. Fig sat on the dresser, staring, not at the wall, not at a bug, but directly at the space between you. That's when it hit you. You were being judged, not by a person. That would have been tolerable, but by a 10-pound feline who once ate a string bean and acted like it was poison. And yet somehow she had the clearest sense of things. You remember saying, "She used to sleep right here like a fuzzy comma between us." Your partner looked up. "Yeah, weird, huh?" Weird. That's what you both called it. Not sad, not telling, not alarming, just weird. Like when the Wi-Fi randomly drops or you find a sock in the freezer. There was a moment when you almost said something else, something real. But instead, you reached for the bedside lamp and said, "Night." Your dreams that night were strange. You were in your old childhood home, chasing Fig through the hallways. She darted through a crack in the wall. When you crawled after her, you ended up in your current apartment, alone. Everything was beige. Even the cat was gone. You woke up, unsure whether you missed Fig, your partner, or just a time when things made more sense. The next day, you came home from work to find Fig curled up in the laundry basket, alone again. Your partner had gone out for air. You didn't ask what kind. The space in the air had become so full of what you weren't saying, You figured they just needed a break from not speaking. That night, you reheated soup and sat on the couch while Fig took her throne on the window ledge. A neighbor's TV flickered blue across her whiskers. You turned and asked her, "Are we done here?" She didn't move, just blinked slowly, like some enlightened monk. Here's a weird side note you once read on Reddit during a 3 a.m. scroll. Cats blink at humans to show trust. If they don't blink back, they're either anxious or done with you. You blinked twice, just to be sure. By now, you and your partner had turned into careful roommates. You left Post-its about laundry, split groceries by app, but you still shared the cat, and Fig seemed to be handling the awkwardness better than either of you. The thing is, when something is breaking, you expect a bang, a big fight, some door slam and storm out drama. But sometimes it's just quiet. It's a cat choosing the hallway, a partner choosing silence, a bed that suddenly feels too wide. And you? You kept feeding Fig and yourself and the lies you told each other that it was just a phase, that cats are fickle, that people are too busy to feel things deeply. But Fig knew. She always knew. It was only a matter of time before the rest of you caught up. The morning the coffee overflowed started like most, with sleep still stuck to your eyes, Fig meowing because her breakfast was 4 minutes late, and your partner already halfway out the door without saying goodbye. A mug clattered somewhere near the sink. The usual script. The same scene, different Tuesday. You weren't even mad about the coffee. Not really. What cracked you was the sound it made as it spilled. This thin, sticky hiss across the counter, like the machine had given up trying to pretend everything was fine, too. You just stared at it, watched the coffee thread itself toward your phone charger like it was hunting for drama. Fig jumped up on the table and did that thing she does, one paw slightly raised, tail flicking with judgment. You swear, if she had thumbs, she'd have written a Yelp review of your whole life right then. Your partner didn't even come out of the bedroom to check. They texted from 5 feet away. "Did you break something?" You replied, "Just my will to make coffee." They didn't laugh. Neither did you. That's when it hit you. Everything was glitching. The coffee, the curtains you forgot to wash for 8 months, the way your partner now breathed more through their mouth, somehow loud enough to qualify as an alert on a noise monitoring app. Even Fig had developed this passive-aggressive way of knocking things off shelves, like she'd become the HR department of your household, filing reports with gravity itself. But here's the part that gets weird. You started craving the silence, that awkward, hum-like nothingness that had settled in. It was cleaner than arguing, easier than trying. You started walking slower through the apartment, like your feet were afraid of setting off landmines made of old memories. And in the middle of it all was the cat, still watching, still withholding bedtime cuddles like some fluffy judge on Emotional MasterChef. One afternoon, you came home early. Fig was sitting in the sink, just sitting, like a weird little statue in the Do Not Disturb section of your feelings. Your partner was on the balcony, talking to someone on the phone with a voice they hadn't used with you in months. Light, happy, human. You didn't say anything. You just walked to the fridge and pretended to look for something. You heard laughter. The good kind. The kind that makes you hate the person it's aimed at just a little. That night, you made dinner. Again. Quietly. Fig ate hers in the hallway as usual. Your partner came in, looked at the plate you'd made for them and said, "Oh, I already ate." "Oh," you said back, chewing bitterness like it was overcooked pasta. There wasn't a fight. No dramatic score, just you washing 2 plates. The third stayed dirty in the hallway, where Fig had pawed it into a corner like a relic. Honestly, it might have been her version of protest art. You started noticing how loud the faucet was, how creaky the hallway got, how the bedroom light flickered when the fridge kicked in, how the apartment felt. Post-used, not lived in. Post-used, like a party had ended and the last guests forgot to leave. Then came the string of passive domestic crimes. The towel left wet on your pillow, the way they now said, your cat, the socks you threw out by accident. And in between it all, Fig kept doing this thing, sitting in doorways, blocking paths, as if she was the final boss of this deteriorating co-op, and she was just waiting to see which one of you blinked first. Fanba! The incident finally came during a late-night thunderstorm. Of course it did, because your life has a thing for cliches. You were both on the couch watching something you'd already seen 3 times. It wasn't even good. Just comforting background noise. Fig was curled up on the windowsill, watching the lightning with that bored, immortal stare. Then your partner said, "So, are we still doing this?" You didn't ask what this meant. You knew, and you knew they weren't asking for an answer, just permission to be the one who didn't want to be the villain. Still, you had to say something. "I guess it depends on what this is." They didn't respond. Fig meowed loudly. You both looked at her. She stared back like, "Finally, you morons." "I mean," your partner started, then stopped. "It hasn't felt like a thing for a while." You nodded. That was it. Not a breakup. Just a quiet scene change. After they went to bed, you stayed up, staring at the black screen of the TV. Fig jumped down and hopped onto your lap for the first time in weeks. You whispered, "Where the hell have you been?" She purred, not answering, obviously. The next morning, you started dividing up the furniture in your head. Who would keep the mug shaped like cartoon animals? Who even bought that sad little lamp? And where would Fig go? You couldn't think about that part yet. So you cleaned the coffee maker instead. Moving day was scheduled for a Saturday, like all emotionally loaded logistics are. You didn't talk much that week, just labeled boxes with black markers and avoided eye contact in the cutlery drawer. Pantry stuff, winter clothes, books that made us pretend we were okay. You wrote that last one as a joke, but it wasn't really a joke, was it? Fig watched the chaos with total calm. She sat on top of boxes like a little emperor, overseeing the fall of her tiny paper kingdom. Occasionally, she'd paw something down just to keep you humble. The night before, you stood in the kitchen with a spoon in your hand and nowhere to put it. Your partner was behind you, fiddling with their phone charger. You asked, "Do you want the cat?" You weren't even sure why you said it that way, like she was some fruit bowl you were trying to pawn off before a garage sale. They turned, startled. "What?" "I mean, you were always more of a dog person." They stared at you for a second. "Number, she's yours. She always liked you more." That felt like an accusation, or maybe a mercy. Either way, you nodded. That night, you slept like you were renting your own bed. Fig didn't join you, but she didn't leave the room either. She just curled up on your laundry pile, which felt symbolic. Morning came with the sound of packing tape, too sharp, too final. Your partner moved through the apartment like they were ghosting it, taking only what they came with and leaving the memories to haunt you. There were no fights, no last-minute pleas, just shared glances that said we're both tired of trying to unburn toast. As they hoisted the final box, they paused in the doorway. You stood across the room, hands shoved deep in your hoodie pocket. They said, "She'll miss the sun in the old window." You said, "She'll find another." You didn't hug. You didn't wave. The door clicked shut like a sigh. You stood there alone with cardboard shadows and a cat who still hadn't jumped on your bed. You made tea, not because you wanted it, but because the kettle was still here, and it gave your hands something to do. Then you opened the last remaining box, the one labeled miscellaneous. Inside, old receipts, a single glove, a photo strip from a train station photo booth, both of you smiling in one frame, half blinking in another, and completely out of frame in the last. Fig rubbed against your leg. You bent down to pet her, and she did that thing, pressed her forehead into your chin like she was trying to reset you. That afternoon, you cleaned, hard, aggressively, like scrubbing away any memory that had ever made eye contact with you. You changed the sheets, washed the walls, lit a cinnamon candle you didn't even like, but it smelled like control. And then she jumped up, figure right onto the bed, like she'd been waiting for the stage to clear. You stared at her. Now? Really? She blinked. You laughed. An actual one. The kind that starts as a grunt and escapes before you can trap it in your chest. You manipulative little sock. She didn't deny it. You lay down. Fig curled into that same old spot at your feet, like nothing had happened, like no hearts had shifted tectonically, like the hallway exile had never occurred. You whispered, "Do you think it was the right decision?" She purred. "You could have given me a heads up." More purring. You closed your eyes. Outside, the city breathed its normal chaos. Buses groaned, someone yelled for reasons they couldn't explain, and the sky turned that melancholy gray that makes you want to read a poem and eat cereal at the same time. And then something unexpected. Stillness. Not silence, not emptiness, just stillness. You weren't happy, not yet. But you weren't sad in that loud, itchy way anymore. You were floating in the part after the drop and before the rebuild, the liminal living room of your life. And there, guarding the doorway like always, was a small creature who seemed to know more than you ever gave her credit for. Sometimes endings don't announce themselves. They come in soft thuds and door clicks. They show up in spilled coffee and forgotten socks and cats who stop sleeping on your bed. But if you're lucky, the endings that sneak in quietly leave enough space for something else to curl up and stay a while. So now, as the lights dim and your breath softens, let this last image drift with you into sleep. A small room, a half-made bed, and a cat, steady, silent, certain, curled at your feet like she never left. Maybe what ended wasn't love, but the shape of it. Maybe what you lost wasn't a person, but the version of yourself that clung too tightly to silence. And maybe, just maybe, Fig knew all along that things had to break before they could be rearranged into something softer. Let your heart slow now. Let the static of the day melt into warmth. The boxes are gone. The coffee stains are wiped clean. And in a hush that's left, you are not alone. You are never quite alone. Take this stillness. Keep it. Wrap it around your shoulders like a quiet goodbye that doesn't hurt anymore. You've lived through it, and so did the cat. Thank you for staying with me until the end of tonight's story. If you found a little piece of yourself in this story, please comment, subscribe, and share a time when something small told you something big.